Well, I'm back, and I'm back this time with MAXD. So I'm going to give it to you straight and just put it out there that if everybody pays attention real closely to everything that's going on, it'll all start to make a lot of sense what's been going on. In terms of the capital markets, in terms of trading, everybody is really obsessing over how to make money in stocks. If they're not already in blockchain and cryptocurrency, which is actually a pretty good place to go, but you got to have a good algorithm. Now in stocks, everybody claims to know what's going on. I don't claim to know what's going on, and the disclaimer is really just the safe harbor statement. I can't tell you with a crystal ball what's going to happen to our stock, but what I can tell you is what has happened to it already and what we believe is going to happen based on what is evolving in the world around us. Now it's moving fast paced, and you really kind of got to know. And where my advantage has been in the course of 40 years career, I'm going to be 63 in June, so that's a lot of time spent in this hard plane here, is the idea that you're going to make a lot of money on stock. Okay, now the reason you can make a lot of money on stock in the microcap space, if you hit it the right way, is the stocks are really cheap because they've been beaten down a lot. And who have they been beaten down by and why? Well, you hear a lot about short selling, and if you followed my involvement in GameStop, that was really key, because the idea there was to see what is going on in the real world. What are they doing in the market? And what happened was you had a situation where you had the man, the man is always whoever's at the top of the mountain, whoever the guy making the money or hurting the little guy. And that was versus the mom and pop traders and the day traders. And those guys rallied together with the idea that if we just buy this GameStop, we can beat the man down. You heard the term short squeeze. You heard the term Goldman Sachs saying about short squeezes. If this short squeeze keeps up, they're going to destroy the market. Well, no, that what they mean by that is it's going to hurt Goldman Sachs, because Goldman Sachs is in charge of a lot. And we're to take a special note of what's been going on with our stock since the first of the year. So go back 2 years to June 13th of 2018. I put out a press release for MAXD, and what it said was that the situation is ripe for a short squeeze. Now, what is a short squeeze? That's when buyers are buying stock and they force whoever's been selling to do an about face and start to buy in because they're short selling. So short selling, what does that mean? Let's just do a really simple version, sort of the entry level basic training. If you buy a stock today and you buy our stock at, say, a penny and you sell it at 2 pennies, that's an idea going long. You bought the stock, and when it went up, it doubled. In that concept, you doubled your money. It went long. You bought it lower, it went up higher, you sold it. You made the difference. Okay. Short selling is supposed to be, in theory, the opposite. I sell it when it's 2 cents, and then if it goes down to a cent, I bet correctly that it was going to lose money. I buy it back at a penny, and I make the difference that way. But if I'm like the world has been for the last 25 to 30 years, then what I'm really selling short, I'm just counterfeiting the stock, or I'm just having fake bloggers or fake bashers go out there and destroy the stock through constant irritation, constantly telling lies to the shareholders that are on the boards at Yahoo Conversations, at iHub. Now you have StockTwits, you have Reddit now has entered the fray, and there's a whole bunch more coming. But there is the opportunity in short plays to make good money. Now, I'm not advocating for or against, okay? That's up to you. I have never in 40 years told people to buy or sell. And plus, I've got multi-millions of dollars in MAXD myself and haven't been able to draw anything out of the business for years. So that means I'm either a righteous dude that's making a good decision, or I've drank too much Kool-Aid and I'm delusional. So you have to decide. That's the good news. This is what I've been doing for 40 years, and it's worked out pretty well. According to Bloomberg, the $1 billion in commerce I've created in my career in 11 deals has roughly made about a 5x return approximately over time for those that, keep in mind, those that bought at a place and sold at a place where they made that spread, okay? So some people are good at buying a stock and they're not good at selling a stock. So that is really part of the problem here with small investing, okay? Always be ready to take some profits so that if you like a company, you invest in a company really because you like the company. If you don't like a company, don't invest in it because somebody told you. If you don't like our company, you should not invest in the company. If you don't think we're doing things the right way, you should not own the stock. If you think that we don't have the right plan, then you don't have any faith in it. It's not synchronized with how you're going to feel all day long, emotionally bad watching the stock. And the micro caps are prone to chronic manipulation by bad people that want them to basically go down. So the way that crime works, let's be clear, is in the short sale, typically I explained I sold it at 2 cents and I bought it back at 1 cent. And there's a settlement called T3. So I would typically buy it back. And now I don't actually own it when I buy it back because I already previously sold it. In order to do that, you have to have a well-established account. You have to be trading options. You have to fill out forms that says you trade or understand trading of options or puts or calls. It says that you understand the reverse of the typical long trade. Okay, and if you're doing that, that's a whole different matter. If you believe a stock is going down, that's okay, but most of these stocks today are prone to a lot of manipulation. When I say manipulation, if you're on the inside of these big companies, like the Goldman Sachs of the world and the JP Morgans of the world, you're already in the back office controlling things. So you can originate a counterfeit share and you can terminate a counterfeit share, and nobody will actually know that you did this, except the unique thing about me being in the business 40 years is I have a lot of friends. So it's not a surprise that about 1.5 years ago, somebody came to my door and said, I have for you a file full of the records in the back office, okay? And the records in the back office say that these shares are being counterfeited, which we knew because I told you I put out a press release, and it's on the site, I'll call it the stock fan site that's called MAXDtothemoon.com. Now, MAXDtothemoon.com lays out for you in clear detail what's going on, the rules that are being changed. And they're being changed by the Depository Trust Company, the National Securities Clearing Corporation, which is a shill, in my opinion, a shill organization of the Depository Trust Company and of all of the other, what we call deep captured actors, the SEC, FINRA. I've talked about these ad nauseum. I've been censored, my stuff's been pulled down. If you've been watching me on I'm for the Dream, on Enough, on Off the Record, on any variety of shows that I've been on, other people's shows and my shows, that's pretty much what I talk about, is that we believe we have a dream, a great American dream. We believe that that's pretty much why everybody's in this country. That's why we came to this country. That's why our relatives came to this country. That's why people will want to come here in the future, in theory, if we don't turn into a completely communist country, which is kind of on a way doing that already, but it can be fixed, okay? So we can fix it, and I'm going to give a little bit of input, what we're doing in our role. And I think you're going to be very excited about it because I look at the negative markets in the course of my 40 years as golden opportunity, the chance to change the way things are done. And I've actually enjoyed my best experiences, my best capital growth, my best successes when times seemed all distorted, wrong, and messed up. So this to me is your golden opportunity to, if you're going to be forced to sit at home and look at your computer screen, to do something really positive with it. Okay, so let's go back to the short sale. In the short sale, I sold it and then I bought it back. In the naked short sale, I'm never going to buy the share back. So what did I do? I sold a fake share, a counterfeit share, to a real buyer who put a real posted account with a real posted share total, including those fake counterfeit shares in their account. And since everything's digital, well, nobody's for the wiser, because most people that see their little stocks going down don't sell their little stocks. They wait until there's a loss to take at the end of the year, or in the case of, in the future, what will they do? They'll just cry a little bit, okay? So, but the way around it is to just simply understand what's going on and then do your own workaround, and I'm going to show you what that is and how to really make easy money. I believe it's a way to make easy money. So these people are selling these shares that they don't own. Now, for those that want to do more research, you can simply look at what at least one attorney for these bad guys told me they do. And when they report their public operation, they report a new category called shares sold but not purchased. So think about that for a minute. Shares sold but not purchased. That's another word for counterfeit shares. And they've admitted to committing a crime in there, so that's a whole nother matter. They also sell many shares above the logical number of shares that they want to counterfeit. Okay, so this is really important to understand that if our company, for example, we have 6.5 billion shares issued and outstanding. That's the total shares in existence. And approximately, people say, well, what's the float? The float is the amount of shares they could trade on a given day in the market. We have about 4 billion roughly of that. And those seems like pretty large numbers. People ask me questions like, are you going to reverse the stock? And if you know what reverse the stock means, it means if you had, let's say, 100 shares of this at a penny, and I reversed it, maybe I would want to have a really low share number. So I would take 6.5 million shares and reverse them 1 for 100. So I take 100 of your shares at a penny and give you 1 share back at $1. Okay. Now, the problem with that is it never works. I've never seen one work. I've been doing this 40 years. And I could have got an extra 60 or $70 million of funding over and above the 140 that I created in my career, but I would have had to do a reverse because some other new investor would be standing there to kill the stock and to kill all the value of the stock for the people that have been standing around owning the stock all this time. Now, how does that work? Well, it works very well for them and very bad for the real investors. Okay, the real investors have been sitting around looking at it a penny. I come along and I say, okay, I'll give you everybody back 1 share for $1, and I'll take all your shares for a penny, 100 at a time. I'll give you a share for $1. But then whoever's in the market's looking at the stock and they see a share for $1 and they go, I don't get it. Like I can't buy that stock for $1. It's not a $1 stock. It's a 1 penny stock. And so nobody buys it. You're not going to get a set of buyers at $1. A dollar buying group is not a 50-cent buying group, and a 50-cent buying group is not a 20-cent or a 10-cent or a 5-cent or a 1-cent group. And now in the case of our stock, we were beaten down to 1/100th of a penny by these deep state actors. And why do they do that? Because the idea is to force us out of business. The only problem that they have with that equation is that I can't be forced out of business. I can't be forced to do anything. I'd have to do it to myself, but I would never do that. So in 40 years, I've never been forced out of something that I wanted to do or taken away from my goal, my laser vision goal. So that's the advantage I have and the disadvantage they have. So in the process, they were counterfeiting our shares, and I put out a release in June of 2018, and it's on the site. I donated it to the site MAXD So I highly suggest look it up or go to maxd.audio. By the way, if you go to maxd.audio, right below the little demo on the homepage, it says something about staying up to date. If you click that button, you put your email in there, you'll get all these updates. And I think that's going to be very important to you if you want to really know what's going on. Because what I've done is I've received this global repository of brilliant information that really helps you understand what's going on, B, react to the situation, C, have a plan, D, have a plan that will work and will support your financial goals. And it doesn't take much. So for example, if you were to have put in $1,000 into our stock just before the first of the year, the stock was at about 1/100th of a penny, and on some days it was a 1/2 of a 100th, okay? So you would have typically made somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000% from January 2nd, the first trading day of the year, to about now, something like, let's say March 15th if you want. So about 54 trading days roughly. Okay, there's 22 trading days in a month, so 2 months and maybe a half. Okay, so you would have done pretty well. So if you had an account, maybe $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, now you'd have an account that said 20,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 or maybe 120,000. So a lot of my friends and investors just, threw some money in there. So if you don't have any money in, you're not in the game. But if you're in the game, then that's good. And the multiples on these are way different than anything else. Actually, you'd think that the micro penny or sub penny, as it's called, which didn't hardly exist 10 years ago. In other words, there were a few companies below a penny. And I had a lot of people in the business that I used to own a broker dealer, so I understand a lot more than most people. But then even people that understand certain things and are in the business don't seem to understand these ideas. It baffles them that there's a group working in the back office of the biggest companies where all stock is registered and they're just making up fake shares and selling them all day long. Now, when I say fake shares, they're selling fake shares. And the file I was brought a year and a half ago by an insider and handed, here's a file. Why are you bringing it to me? Well, because you're the only person that has the nerve enough to do something about it. And I know you will. And it's wrong what's going on, and somebody has to do something about it, and you're known as the guy that'll always do something about it, no matter what. Like, nobody will stop you. Nobody's even tried. And you've given them open challenges hundreds of times, and all they do is try to censor you and shut you up. But they sure as heck don't want to give you a podium. So let's take that for example. At 1/100th of a penny, you just take out your calculator and you put in 0.0001 times whatever the price is today, the number of shares you bought. So you take, let's say you bought, I think $1,000 shares, $1,000 divided by 0001 was, if I'm not mistaken, 10 million shares. You're gonna buy 10 million shares for $1,000, and if you believe it's going to a penny, well, that's 100 grand. If I'm pretty sure that's correct on the math. So, but do your math. Okay, now, so what I'm saying is the exponential potential is of epic proportions, okay? Say it to yourself. The exponential potential is of epic proportions, right? It's kind of hypnotic, but it's kind of fun to say, and I love stuff like that. So it's not just a word game, it's wealth creation. Okay, the second thing is when it goes up, you gotta sell something. Now, I'm not advising you to sell, I'm just saying, be a good buyer, be a good seller. If you bought it like that and you sold it like that, let's say 10% or 20% of what you had, then you would have what is known typically for old guys like me as the zero cost basis. It means you paid for whatever you invested in it and probably made some extra money in your pocket, and you have all these other shares that you basically paid nothing for. Okay, that's the zero cost basis. That's the holy grail in trading microcap stocks. The other holy grail is believe in something, okay? If you don't believe in something, that's why I started, and that's where I'm gonna tie a bow on this topic. This is a really important topic for you. When you are at that place where you really like a company, or they say bet on the jockey, not on the horse, okay? I'm kind of the jockey and kind of the horse, okay? But I bet on things that I believe in, and if I'm involved in it, I believe in it because I don't have the ability to quit or stop innovating or stop growing and improving and doing whatever I have to succeed within the rules. And that's another thing, 40 years I've followed the rules. So I think everybody should follow the rules, and for those that don't, and that's few and far between really, believe that or not. I think most people are inherently want to do it the right way, I want to be honest. But the rules are fairly onerous, and then the system doesn't want you to win. If you're the little guy, they don't want you to win. They want you to believe that prosperity is finite. Okay, think about that for a minute. Abundance, wealth, prosperity, material wealth, money, possessions, good things, a nice car, a nice home. They want you to think that's finite. There's nothing in the universe that's finite. There isn't a single scientific principle that back anything being finite, but they've got everybody being oppressed and against each other for reasons that nobody even knows what they are. They're just propaganda. And so we're going to talk about, for a minute, that to what we're doing. We're building a third option. So remember that I said that the third option is a whole new ecosystem. It's not Apple and it's not Google. It's not any of the things related to what they do. It's an existing system that couldn't get any traction and move into position to compete of this antitrust monopoly. Okay, so we're building that, and that's very exciting. We've got a huge thing that's going to happen that's going to really give us some fantastic market advantage. But let's get back to the stock for a minute, because it's near and dear to my heart. I do all this pain and suffering, meaning I build something I believe in. I forego salary. I put in my own money, and I have my own money. I'm all in, and all my deals I'm always all in. So, I have nowhere to turn except to be successful, and that's where I'm in my comfort zone. I would not be comfortable if I didn't have everything riding on my beliefs in myself. So if you believe in that, you may be betting on the jockey. But I would say the horse is often considered the product of the technology. I would say, some people say bet on the jockey, not on the horse. I'd say you got to have a good jockey that you believe in, and you got to have a good horse that you believe in. And the two better be working together, and they better be making a lot of adjustments as necessary to succeed. Now, let's talk about MAXD. I said it went up 8,500% since the first year. Since the middle of last year, it went up almost 12,000%. Okay, now we're talking still in fractions, but fractions are not relative. What's relative is if you bought a Google stock or one of these big tech stocks, if you had a stock for $1,000 or $2,000 and it went up 5%, you can't make any money, really. I mean, it doesn't matter how much. If it doubles in the year, that's still a very hard road, because we're talking about something that if it doubled, it went up 200%. I'm talking about something that I said in 3 months, less than 3 months, it went up 8,500%. I mean, those numbers are staggering. And we could go up a lot more. Are we going to? I don't have a crystal ball, won't predict it. But I'm in it because I believe I can go up way more than I've gone up. So you decide. If I think my millions of dollars that I'm riding on this deal is a good investment or a bad investment. Now, at the end of the day, it only matters what I think about it, but just think about that for a minute, okay? How much will you put behind what you believe in? Okay, now here's another thing. Part of this show, I haven't done any shows in a long time because I've been busy making deals for the company. And here's where the rubber meets the road, as they say. And very exciting for us that we had all that movement while the Wall Street players were trying to bash us into oblivion. Okay, so while they were trying to harm us at the highest level of how much they can harm a company, and I have it well documented, and they have their evidence against themselves. So they have a lot of exposure, but I'm not really interested in that. That's a fail-safe, a last resort, a fallback plan to execute the nuclear options, okay? I always have nuclear options. That's the fight in me, the martial artist in me, the tactical strategist that I have just fun with. But the real information that you need is that we're building something of value. There's a saying in the market, you can build value with hype or promotion or enthusiasm or excitement, but then you got to sustain it with performance. You got to sustain it with performance. Now that's exactly what we're doing, and we've got a niche, and the niche looks to be the biggest niche